Welcome in. This is season 5. This is episode number 39 of the Outlap F1 podcast. We have made it. It is time for the Oh no, only wanted to hear it once. But you can play it over and over again in your head. It is the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It is the Las Vegas Grand Prix race preview show to get you all hyped up for what is going to be an over-the-top weekend, if nothing else. You've got Andy, and I'm along with my wonderful usual preview co-host, Cody, tonight. Sir, it's been only, 48 hours since we saw each other last? But Good to see you again. And how you doing on this fine evening?
I'm doing well. We just went and played in a poker tournament, so we're definitely in the Vegas spirit. And you're going to need that Vegas spirit to keep you awake to watch the race where we live.
Yeah, I mean, I'm busting out the Japan game plan, the Australia game plan, and maybe even some of the old Malaysia game plan for this weekend with some of these times. And we will get into all that because if you're in the U.S., you're in the eastern half of the U.S., yikes. Let's put it that way. If you'd like to do your F1 live, this is going to be a bit of a challenge, if nothing else. But we will get into all that in just a little bit. If you found our show, as David Croft would say, welcome along. We are glad that you are here. You can find the show, as always, on Twitter, X, whatever that thing is calling itself right these days, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and, of course, YouTube. At Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle that will take you there. If you happen to like and enjoy what you're seeing and hearing, do us a solid if you're on YouTube. Click the like and subscribe button. It just helps us get our content to you that much quicker. Helps us come up a little bit better in search results for Formula One content. So we would be appreciative if you'd like to do that. If you're on your favorite podcasting app, specifically Apple Podcast or Spotify, but we're on a number of different ones as well. If you leave us a 5-star review, again, that helps us come up a little bit better in searches, helps us, again, get our content to you that much quicker to you. You can email the show, chat now at outlapf1.com. We'll take you there. You can peruse the website, www.outlapf1.com, takes you there. Thank you so much, as always, to our monetary supporters, including Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and, of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to become a member of what we call the hashtag Outlap F1 Nation, you can see our link tree in our show notes. It's our anchor page. It's $1, $5. All goes into making the show a little bit better, investing in new equipment, upgrading the equipment we currently have. I've promised I'm going to try to put together this arm thing that I bought over a year ago. I have the table. I have the end table. I have all of the pieces. It's out of the box. It's in all sorts of pieces. Now I have to put the pieces together. But I'm going to try. And hopefully on the review Sunday evening or whenever we can get to it, I will be broadcasting in front of my painting in my living room as opposed to in my dining room. I've been doing this since basically I've started. So that's the goal. We'll see if I can manage to put it together. I may even post a picture or two if I actually make some progress. Or it's going to turn into Homer Simpson trying to put together a grill. And yeah, I'll have that sound effect for you if that's what it eventually turns into. So one way or another, I hope you're entertained by it. All right. People who actually give us money to read things. The good folks at Manscaped, Christmas is coming. And you can take advantage of a code, OUTLAP, OUTLAP, which will give you 20% off and free shipping from the good folks at Manscaped if you are so inclined to check out their line of product. And our buddy Vincenzo Landino. The F1guy.com is the site. He's got F1 quality merch at not necessarily the F1 quality prices. Take it from somebody who has some F1 merch. It's not cheap. And again, Christmas is coming. He's got some really good stuff, especially if you're a Ferrari fan. So feel free and go ahead to check that out. All right. The particulars are now out of the way. We will start with the news and a lot of talk in the news. The big story, the first thing we got to lead off with, Andretti Global continues to bring big bats to the table here. They have secured an agreement with GM as to enter F1 as an OEM, as an engine manufacturer in 2028, assuming Andretti Global is admitted as the 11th team into F1, the team would be called Andretti Global Cadillac. If you are an American and motorsport fan, to have the prospect of GM versus Ford versus the rest of the world competition, what an appetizing concept. Cody, what is your take on all this? Big move by Andretti.
I think it's fantastic. And like you just said, the thought of having big American car manufacturers up against your big international car manufacturers that are in Formula One, like Mercedes and Ferrari, it would be so cool. And it's just another, something else Andretti has brought to the table now that's making it seem like, how could you possibly not let them in at this point? They've done everything that you wanted. They brought big manufacturer, potentially to the sport. And they, at this point, GM has said, yeah, we'll do it. And, they've got the drivers, they've got the funding, they're ready to do it. They've even made the mock car. They're doing everything you want them to do. And I think it would be extremely exciting. And I just hope that it is enough to convince F1, because it seems that the teams are all that is left standing between Andretti and Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, interesting that we saw an immediate acknowledgement of the announcement by Mohammed Ben Sulayem at the FIA, and crickets from one Stefano Domenicali representing FOM and Formula One management and the teams. So, yeah, I mean, we know we are on par for what is going to be a showdown. This will probably be the story of the offseason as to where this finally lands, if it lands anywhere. I love the fact that Andretti does this now, this weekend, when they're all here. It's wonderfully timed. It's bringing a ridiculous big back. And, oh, yeah, they've gotten commitment from GM that they're only going to do business with Andretti. So you either take Andretti or they take their ball and they go home with it. This is what you wanted. You wanted additional OEMs to have interest in the sport when you did these modified engine rules that are all going to come in after 2025, and this is everything that I think you would want if you're even if you're an opposing team, even if you're a team that's drastically opposed to this. It's got to lift you up to know that you want more competition in there, an additional team. More revenue will come in, more eyes on your sport, more, ability to grow. You've kind of seen growth in this country start to plateau, which is, not terrible, but it's also not great. Everybody wants to see growth continue, as long as you can do it. This would be an easy way to do it. So again, I feel like this is another box that's been ticked off by Andretti, who just has methodically gone down the list of stuff that anybody would want. So I really hope this starts to turn some heads of some teams, some people who were maybe opposed for their own, protectionist reasons, that they don't need to be that way anymore. They're not going to kill your sport. They're going to come in and they're just going to want to compete. I mean, they do it in other stuff. I mean, Andretti didn't come in and dominate Formula E right away. It took a couple years, and they got going, and they came good, and they had, I think they've won a drivers' championship, if nothing else. I think they won the constructors this year too, but don't quote me on that. But so yeah, I mean, what else do you want? So again, it's another box. FOM. The ball is squarely in your court, and the next thing you say about this is going to probably carry a ton of weight. So I get it, not wanting to open your mouth and insert your own foot here. But a response would be nice if we could get one soon. All right. Well, since that was the big news story on the positive event, we got to talk about a lot of stuff that is around this race. This is the first year we finally have made it to this part on the calendar when it was announced. A couple years ago, F1 going to Las Vegas, I remember watching the initial when they first put the tickets on sale, and they had F1 cars going up and down the strip, and Lewis Hamilton was there and George Russell was there, and they had a whole bunch of other things, pomp and circumstance all going on. big crowds in attendance for that. Well, now we have finally come full circle. The place is as ready as it's going to be. It doesn't look like we've got any major last-minute logistical issues, so this is not going to be a Saudi Arabia thing. So we're not going to be literally waiting for homologation at the 11th and 12th hour. It looks like everything is going to work the way that is pretty much intended. But I promised Deanna some rants about this when we were on our last review. So I've got a couple things that just doesn't sit well with me as an F1 fan. So let's talk about some of the major issues, because I feel like you can't have the good without talking about some of the not so good here. The first one, obviously, if you were a local, and we experienced this in Chicago when NASCAR came here, construction is a major headache in any metropolitan area ever. And then you shut down not only your main thoroughfare in Las Vegas Boulevard and all the streets around it, but there were also, just because life in progress is what it is, there were other major construction projects going on at the same time. Apparently a big construction project about the Tropicana overpass, which apparently connects Tropicana Boulevard to I-15, which is a major way in and out from the airport to the Las Vegas Strip. Big construction project on Koval Road, on Harmon Road, on Paradise Road, which are all the alternates when Las Vegas Boulevard is booked or way too jammed. So, I mean, it's the equivalent, like if you're in Chicago, of having work on the Dan Ryan, the Eisenhower, the Stevenson, and Lakeshore Drive all at the same time. Yeah,
No
Cody,
way.
I would imagine we would not like that.
Oh gosh, like when they were doing work on what is that 90 heading by Wrigley Field, I was heading out there for concerts, and it was the biggest pain in the ass. So I can't imagine having way more than that shut down, and then you're shutting down the actual strip for the race itself. So you got no way to get around. It's got to really suck if you live in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some estimates from different people who I've listened to on the ground have indicated that it was up to as much to double, even sometimes triple the amount of commute. I can only verify what happened to us around downtown when NASCAR finally set up shop that week. Trying to get out of downtown the Thursday before the race was absolute insanity. There were cars just everywhere. Street lights turned into optional things. It almost looked like martial traffic law had taken over. And by the time I got to one of the major thoroughfares out, then that was a death trap. Then somebody was trying to be in the left lane and go across 5 lanes of traffic to make another ramp to get out of the city. It was absolutely terrifying. But that was only a day or two for us. I can't imagine what it would be to do this for months and months and months. So I feel the pain there. Good news is, now that it's built, hopefully we don't have this, obviously for year 2 or as much for year 3. But I totally can get some pain and some understanding to the good folks in Las Vegas who choose to live there. All right. The other big issue that I had with this was, I remember distinctly, and we even talked about it on this show, that when F1 announced that they were going here, they made it a point of saying, we're going to foot the bill for the construction of this thing. We're not going to go dabbling for public money. And they did that until they didn't, and then they did. So they end up asking, and I don't know if they actually got it, but I know they had at least the gall enough to ask for an additional $40 million in public funding. Now, I know certain projects, like the Miami project, was pretty much, for the most part, private. I know Circuit of the Americas was a mix of like that. A lot of the year-to-year support is from a fund in Texas that's called the Major Events Fund. So that was built into the budgeting. This was not. And either it was an over-budget thing that now caused them to have to go out and try to get public funding, or or I don't know necessarily why they suddenly turn about and did face like that. But it's really annoying. Again, if you're a resident and you are told one thing and then something happens and a different event and a different outcome comes out, Cody, that's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of the whole public budget for paying for sporting events. You know, we hear about it all the time where you know, teams like, you know, football teams, they want a new stadium, baseball teams, they want a new stadium. They don't want to pay for it, even though they make bajillions of dollars. They want you to pay for it. They want the city to pay for it because they bring so much to the city. Now, in this case, you know, it's a little tough to say. I mean, you know, if they were trying to foot the bill and it ended up like it was going to be a little more and they needed to come up with more money to make it happen, you could look at it as you're bringing some tourism to Las Vegas, but Las Vegas's name of the game is tourism, so you're not really probably lacking too much for that. And I'm just trying to see it from the perspective of someone who lives in Las Vegas, who doesn't give a crap about Formula One, who suddenly now, you know, the city is paying for part of that to happen that you don't care about, and you know that you're going to end up footing some of that bill in the end. It's got to be very frustrating.
Yeah, and you know, there will be probably fallout at a local political level, I would assume, if there was an official that said one thing and then it led to another, and if they flip around. I mean, this is common in local politics. This is something that can easily happen. And you know, you make a commitment, you got to stick to it. So, I mean, I get it. It was just surprising to me that they would do an about face when they made such a big deal about
Is
not wanting to do it
You
not
gotta
wanting to
wonder
tap public
too.
money in the first place. Go ahead.
You gotta wonder too that this isn't like a 1 year thing. It's not just one event. They're contracted to do this for several years, and if it goes well, you know, who knows how many more years after that. Are they going to now just like build this into the city budget to do this every year? Is Formula One gonna come back and every year potentially be asking, oh yeah, we need like another 50 mil to make this happen again? Like, it's they need to have something a little more concrete in place, I would think, at least, so that, you know, you're not sitting wondering how this is going to go year after year.
And that was a mistake that Circuit of the Americas made after the first couple of years, is they kept coming back, you know, because they realized now what it actually took when you actually had real data, what it took to actually run a property like that for an entire year. And the state of Texas didn't really want to play ball with them, and there was more than a couple of years that were very much in jeopardy because they didn't know if they were going to get the funding. Now they were able to do it, and those early years they went through, I think, 3 or 4 different leadership teams until the team that's been there with Bobby Epstein has stayed there and has been stable, and it's been a much better run ever since he came on board. But yeah, you did not know what you were actually getting, and you didn't know as a ticket holder, you didn't know as a stakeholder in the race, you know, what was going to happen, and it just becomes a giant question mark. And uncertainty when it comes to this, when it's this big of a scale, is really, really tough to swallow. Add to that, apparently, the extra police and fire department, which normally in the case of a big event for Las Vegas are always paid for by the event. Apparently, the taxpayers are going to foot some of that bill. Now, hopefully there's not a whole lot of extra need for massive emergency services. You know, you always hope that that's not something that's going to happen, but it is something. It is a cost. It is another line item that I don't think it sounded like, from everything that I've looked at, it wasn't really considered until we got kind of way into the game and like, oh yeah, we kind of do need to call up the reserve fire and police and all that to have them there. So again, I do think some of this is also learning by doing. And when you learn by doing, sometimes you run into stuff like this. So, it was another, construction funding and how this thing got paid for. It obviously is going to happen. And it looks, from all the lookings of it, the pit building looks absolutely amazing. The tarmac looks actually pretty cool. It's in actually really good shape. There's hardly going to be a bump anywhere. according to everything I've read. So they've definitely done a great job of putting this together. I would like to see it with a lot more public support than this public kind of acrimony. And then we get into our third point. When speaking of public acrimony and formula, and this was the thing that probably bothered me the most, other than the cost of going, which I'm getting to in a minute. F1 as a citizen in the Las Vegas community, they've come in and they've tried to pull what I would almost call some mobster shit, because it's almost that good. They thought they were going to be able to charge restaurants, clubs, casinos, anybody with a public view of the racetrack. This is what they thought they were going to be able to get away with. $1,500 a head for the max capacity of the venue. So if you had 1,500 people with a view of your track, Liberty Media tried to send this bill to a casino and said, oh, but that would be $2 million. Please pay us for the right to have our cars in your field of vision. Otherwise, we're going to install barriers that block that lovely view. In a street race, it goes around Monaco. Guess what? If you're in one of those Monaco apartments, you get a free look at the racetrack. How? And now what they did was they came off of that. The casinos told them to take a hike, basically. And so they settled on a nominal $50,000 fee per venue, which is like 0.1% of what they were kind of asking for. But it's amazing to me that Formula One tried to come in and strong arm and change the deal on casinos run by, have you not seen the Robert De Niro movies? Like, really? Cody, what's your thought on this?
It's really stupid. Like, they're trying to make it so that they can charge those astronomical prices that we can see for the tickets, because it's in the Strip, it's in Las Vegas. There's going to be places where you might not be at the track grandstands. You're going to be able to see the race. And I think in most places that would be a great thing. Like, you want to draw. It's probably one of the reasons why Las Vegas is cool with having this there in the first place, is it's going to bring more people in. It's going to bring more people to those businesses for the week. And people are going to want to go to those places just to catch a glimpse of the cars going by. And that normally should be a great thing. So I don't know why Formula One would want to try to mess that up by going to all those businesses and being like, we're going to just ruin this for you and all that business that you should be getting by putting up these big old barriers unless, you pay us. Like, I don't get how they think they can just do that. I mean, I think it's kind of nuts even that they're managing to be getting $50,000 from these businesses. I don't think they should get anything. I think they're already charging plenty of money for those tickets, and anyone else that shows up and is able to get in and catch a glimpse, they should be able to. It should be cool. I mean, it's a little different from when me and you are at Coda and we paid for, we paid for those nice seats, and we got people standing on the stairs next to us trying to get that nice view, kind of sneaking in. I feel like that's a little bit different. These are businesses in the area. They want you there. So
and they've already put up the investment of being there. You literally are going to race in their backyard. And not only are you trying to come in and establish yourself as like a junkyard dog, it's like a rabid junkyard dog trying to do as much money grab as humanly possible. I mean, you want to be working with the venues, not against them. The coolness is watching a Red Bull go driving down the Mirage hallway. That's the cool stuff that you can get when you do the marketing and the synergy and all that other stuff, and it's more eyes on your sport. I don't know if, Cody, you got a chance to watch the Netflix golf thing, which was a really good kind of cross-pollination between golf, Las Vegas, the Wynn golf course, and Formula One. Carlos Sainz pulled a Lando Norris and broke the trophy, by the way. If you haven't seen that video, you soon will. But yeah, I mean, I tried to watch some of it, and I guess like if you were a fan of like The Match by which is another kind of amateur golf thing, with professionals in it, you might want to watch this as well. So there's all these opportunities to kind of make your money back in earned dollars. This just feels stupid. Like, who came up with that idea and said, we're going to go in and try to strong arm the Vegas casino and hotel and hospitality business?
Mm-hmm.
And rightly, they got put down on it, and they think they ended up taking the number that they said to save face. But again, just mind-boggling to me when you're trying to make friends. The biggest thing you can do is make friends in the community. And this just was not a way to do it. Anyway, one more, and then I swear I'm done. But we do have to talk about the elephant, it seemed, in the room from day one of this, which has been the crazy amount of ticket prices that have been going on that have been listed and have recently snapped back in the open market. The ticket prices, the hotels that you couldn't, when they first announced the date, you couldn't, if you tried to block a room, you couldn't do it. All the hotels were not letting you reserve anything. And then they were only doing it if you showed that you had a ticket and could do a package deal. And they charged this massive amount between the ticket and the hotels. I wanted to say it was almost like $5,000 if you got a main grandstand seat. So like you take the view that I have at Circuit of the Americas and you equate it here, you're looking at $2,400, $2,500 a seat just to be there. And then another $2,000 on a hotel. That's 45, almost $5,000 after all the fees and taxes and all the other, bits and nibbles at it just to be there. And I remember when we got back, we were sitting in my sister's kitchen, and she literally was asking about, she goes, wait a minute, you're telling me there's a race in Las Vegas and you two aren't like first in line? And I had to look at her and I said, yeah, we would have loved to, but we couldn't do it. And like, we're the demographic of like the people that Formula One is like marketing to. Like, I'm like right down the middle as far as I'm concerned. And when you price me out, that's saying something. And I'm a dedicated ass fan. I will wake up at these crazy hours to watch the sessions. But it's crazy that they overshot the market so much that they never saw the canary that Miami was screaming at them when Miami tried to pull this same stuff in the second year, and they couldn't get away with it then. The secondary market, I'm still seeing tickets for almost half off what they were originally listed for. And there's still people trying to list tickets and trying to sell 3-day passes right now. So, I mean, they will fill the seats like they always do. I mean, it just always tends to happen. But for somebody who was really excited when they announced this, to end up not being able to even think about going because it was just too freaking expensive, it's kind of disappointing.
It is really disappointing, and it is nuts how expensive the tickets are. Like, the tickets at Coda have been going up in price year after year after year to the point where it's starting to get a little uncomfortable. And we're talking about people trying to sell tickets now for Vegas half off. I think there's still more than the Coda tickets. That's after huge price reductions. And yeah, the whole hotel block thing where you have to, do this big package deal. I mean, hotels always do that where there's a big event, they're going to nail you on the price because there's an event, but it's just so astronomically expensive. And I think they thought that they could do that. They're going to cash in on it big time. Oh, everyone's going to want to go see this because it's in Las Vegas. It's on the Strip. It's going to be beautiful and so cool. And yeah, people will just pay anything for it. And yeah, at this point, we're seeing that maybe that market wasn't quite as strong as they thought it was going to be, because if it was that strong, there wouldn't be anyone selling their tickets. There wouldn't be any scramble to try to sell what's left. And yeah, had the tickets been even remotely affordable, I would have definitely gone. I would have gone with you, and it would have been great. And I would have made a nice vacation out of it, and it would have cost a pretty penny, but I would have been really happy. But it's just the price points that were set are beyond a normal fan's capabilities, it seems, and it's really not fair because, like, we're big fans, and we can't even touch it.
Yeah, and the other thing it seemed like nobody wanted to realize was, like, when you're not local, unless you live there, you kind of have to build your trip like you almost build a little house. You have to have the foundation of where are you staying. That's the first thing I always try to do is I make sure I've got my hotel, I've got a roof over my head, I have confirmed reservations, because I've had that also happen to me where I've been not having reservations anymore. But I make sure that all that is done. That's the first thing I do. Then I look at getting there. How am I going to get there? How early can I book on flights so that I'm not a victim of the kind of dynamic pricing that you tend to see around an event? But, most airlines kind of already know what dates, and they probably pretty much bake that in anyway. So you're not going to really get a whole lot, but you want to try to avoid that last minute rush, to get tickets. And then how are you going to move around? So those are kind of the three big pillars of any kind of trip is, where are you going to stay? How are you going to move around? Maybe I would have needed to rent a car for this one. Maybe not, because you can pretty much walk up and down the strip and pretty much get pretty much anywhere you wanted to. There is cabs, there are Ubers and Lyfts. So, there would have been ways to get around without necessarily needing a car. So maybe you could save a dollar or two there, but you're still then you got to worry about food and everything else. And then if you're going to eat food on the strip, nothing is going to be cheap and everything is going to be, marked to the nines. You almost expect that. Never mind eating at the venue. Now, one of the things that they tried to mitigate what the venue did, which I thought was kind of interesting, was they said all your food and drink, if you were in some of these prepackaged zones, was supposed to be covered. Well, that's great. What happens if that venue or that section runs out of food? Which is something that can happen. Which is something I've seen happen before.
Probably going to see it happen this weekend, and then hopefully they're going to learn more for next year.
Right, exactly. So, there's a lot of issues going on the underbelly of what is going to hopefully be, and we haven't even talked about temperatures or tires or anything actually related to the race. We're about to do that. All that having been said, I still think the concept of this is pretty cool. And I just hope that lessons can be learned and markets can be readjusted so that hopefully next year I can look at this and say, maybe yes to this. It's really bumming me out that I couldn't do it. Even when everything started to come down, I remember I watched the reel of somebody from Vegas saying, all the ticket prices are coming down, the hotel prices are coming down. I was actually sitting on my computers Saturday morning working out math to try to see if I could make this work. It still was just that little bit out of what I could have legitimately do. But that having been said, if they learn their lessons and they can turn this into a good event, and hopefully the racing's good, we'll talk about more details on what we think the race could be in a little bit. But I'd still like to be able to go.
Yeah, great.
All right. Enough ranting, enough negativity. We're going to take a break. We're going to re-rack. We're going to put our positive faces on, and we're going to actually try to preview a motorsport event on a venue unlike the world has ever seen. And we're actually not overdoing it at this case. So come on back. We'll get into our track facts. There aren't as many of them as there normally are.
It's going to be nice and easy.
We will then talk about weather, which could be quite a story for all of the different reasons than you would normally think. And then we'll talk about predictions because this is darts at a dartboard. We're going to try our best. We'll see how bad our lap times are, which generally our record hasn't been great when we've done this, but we're going to try. We'll tell you when you can actually watch these sessions live if you're crazy like me. So come on back. We'll get into all that in just a minute. Welcome back in. This is season 5. This is episode number 39 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's the 2023 Las Vegas GP race preview. And as always, we are proud members of the Ship It Studios podcast network. I'm done ranting and raving about what I didn't like going into the race. But now it's time to talk about actually the fun stuff, the good parts, the actual race itself, because we actually have a Grand Prix. There are points on offer. So we're going to talk about it. So Cody, I don't even know what this is actually formally called. I've read the Las Vegas Autodrome. According to the F1 site, it's called the Las Vegas Strip Circuit, which sounds a little awkward just even in and of itself. But all right, Cody, let's give us what track facts we have on the Las Vegas Strip Circuit.
All right. This weekend, racing in the Las Vegas Strip Circuit, located in the beautiful desert city of Las Vegas, Nevada, United States. 50 laps around the track for the race. Track length, 3.853 miles at 6.201 kilometers. Made up of 17 turns. The tire selection that probably went with for this race is a C3, C4, and C5 compound. The track characteristics, which I guess we're going to have to see if these actually stack up. Traction 2 out of 5, asphalt grip 3 out of 5, asphalt abrasion 3 out of 5, track evolution 5 out of 5, tire stress 3 out of 5, braking 3 out of 5, lateral load 2 out of 5, and downforce 1 out of 5. A lot of long, high-speed straights here. And this is going to be pretty much it for me because all the other stuff that we normally get into, qualifying lap record, race lap record, most wins, most constructor wins, none of that exists yet, but it will next year. What's the circuit like, Andy?
All right, so located in the heart of Las Vegas, the new 6.2 kilometers, 17-turn street circuit winds its way past iconic locations like Caesar's Palace, the Bellagio, and the Venetian. With average speeds expected to match Monza, otherwise known as F1's Temple of Speed, there promises to be plenty of action and overtaking. All right, so for the weather, and the weather will play a role this weekend. Why? Because it's cold outside, and it's going to be in the desert in November, and that's when it gets cold outside. Apparently nobody thought about that, but here we go. So I'm breaking this down because the days are kind of weird, so I'm just saying Thursday, Friday for the normal Friday running. So for practice day, clear skies. I'm not talking about high temperatures here. I'm talking about low temperatures here. Low of 53 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds light and variable. A 4% chance of rain. For Friday, Saturday, which will be the qualifying day. Again, mostly clear skies. A low around 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So cold, but not terrible. It's like early spring. Winds light and variable. However, a 24% chance of rain. That would throw an interesting loop, all the teams for a loop in that session. And for the race on what I'm calling Saturday/Sunday, clear skies, coldest of the 3 days, low around 50. That could be significant as well. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10, so a little more wind. A 3% chance of rain for the race itself. All right, and if you've got a chance to look at the layout, it looks like an upside-down pig. I can't really say it any better than that.
I can't imagine if it rained on Saturday during qualifying, how nuts it would be being wet and cold on a track no one's raced before with these crazy long straights. I
on potentially injured tires, and they have to break out intermediate tires. Oh boy. Yeah, so I mean, this is a great unknown. It is totally an unknown. There's no data set. They've never been here before. There's only the good. How good is your simulator, and what variables can it kind of throw at you? Type of situation is kind of where we're at. Huge, very long straights down the Vegas Strip itself, going past the Bellagio, going past the Mirage, from between turn 12 through turn 14 is a very long straight. The only really kind of major braking zone is the first couple turns, turn 1 and 2. There's a little complex there, followed by another long straight. Like I said, it looks like an upside-down pig. And if you've seen the memes with Spider Pig overlaid with this, that's pretty darn close for me kind of describing what it looks like. But it's here, it's built, it's going to be lit up, and we're going to find out what's going on. And here's another thing that you normally don't see. Because this track is actually going to go back to being public roads during the day. They are not going to start to close it down until about 5 o'clock local time. So because of that, there are no support races. There is only F1 racing for FP1, FP2, FP3, and qualifying, and then the race. So that's the only track evolution you're going to get, or what the F1 cars do. So what I
Hmm.
think you're going to see actually in the practices is a bunch of guys taking some kind of non-traditional lines to at least, one, clean the track, and two, try to put some rubber down into some places to kind of increase the grip, because otherwise, if it's going to be cold, these tires don't like cold generally, and as a main thing. I've seen the graph of the temperature where, like, oh, most of the races are here and Vegas is there in terms of the temperature. Now, it's going to be kind of like testing the first day when they used to go to Spain. You would see sometimes it would start at around 10 degrees Celsius, and you could still do running, and you'd still be kind of okay. So I don't think it's not ideal, but I don't think it's going to be the tire disaster that everyone was kind of thinking about. But Cody, what's your thought?
I actually I don't want it to be a disaster. Don't get me wrong, but it's already going to be kind of kooky because it's in Las Vegas, it's in the desert, and it's cold, and it's a track no one's ever raced on before with crazy long straights where they're going to be going really, really fast. Now, like I said, I don't want it to be like a total shit show. Don't want anyone to get hurt, but just anything that can go on in this race to make it even more kooky. Like, I'm all about it. I'm ready for this to be totally nuts, off the wall. Logan Sargent brings home first place. Like, anything goes.
Could you imagine? You would get a wake up text. I don't know if you're going to be awake for the race itself, but if that
I'm
happens,
gonna
I'm
try,
texting
man.
you. If that happens, I'm group chatting everybody. Do you believe what you're watching? Oh my god! So anyway, so now I guess we will kind of get into the choose your champion predictions game. Let's see what we think. Let's see how our darts at a dartboard really work this weekend, because this is way into the unknown. We were bouncing ideas off of each other, like, what do you think the lap time's going to be? Well, I saw this and I read that. So here we go. All right, so we will start with the qualifying pole sitter. As we are apt to do, Cody, who's your guy, and what you got?
I've been, since he claimed the championship, I've been having a little fun trying to bet against Max Verstappen. But you've been kicking my ass at our game here the past few races, so I think I'm done betting against him. I'm going to go with Max Verstappen for pole. I think that Red Bull DRS is going to be absolutely dominant here with those crazy fast straights, and I think they're going to really have a very strong advantage.
I think it's actually, well, okay, so you've got Max in a runaway. I've got it close, but Max will just kind of do one of those magical sector threes. I'm thinking back to Monaco when you thought Fernando had him and the timing looked like he was 2.5 tenths down going into the last sector, and then he just pulls out this ungodly sector three and manages to yank it back. So that's how I think it's going to go. I think it'll be tight. I think there will be some contenders. There will also be some early, what I would say, pretenders, at least in practice, where some guys will look good and then they'll fade back a little bit because it's a completely blank slate and there's no data. So somebody will get the setup initially right. Somebody will get it a little bit more wrong. And then they'll probably, because thank goodness it's not a sprint weekend, but as they have a night to kind of go over that data, they will coalesce. And you'll probably see probably what we tend to see is normal service resumed. But I do have Max taking the pole here as well. All right, so one of the main variables, what do we think the lap time is going to be? Cody, I guess you'll get to go first here. What you got?
So I did just really, really quick research online here because we don't have any data here to go off of, really. And I guess based on simulator runs, they're thinking that pole lap time could be, as good as 1 minute 33 seconds, maybe 1 minute 34 seconds, depending on conditions. So I decided to have a little fun with this since we don't have any data to really make a logical stab at it. I'm going to go with some lucky slot numbers, and I'm going to go with a 1 minute 33.777.
All right, very good. I did actually watch some of what they called the Las Vegas show run earlier on YouTube today. with Charles Leclerc, Jamie Chadwick, and a host of other characters. Let's just put it that way. And in the actual virtual qualifying session that they ran, that Leclerc was actually trying to do normal things in, he set like a 134.5. And that was in like a virtual Q1 session without a whole bunch of, with some track evolution built in. So I think over the course of 3 sessions, I think you will see something a little bit faster. But given the fact, like I said, there's no support races, they're opening up it back up to public roads, i.e. Monaco, every time a session is done, or during the day at least. I don't know how much Evo you're going to get. I think you're definitely going to see some between Q1 and Q3. So I'm going to say 134, 1, and in Las Vegas tradition, the roulette wheel comes up double zeros. So 134, 1.1, 00. You go the lucky number, I went the opposite. All right. So for the race on Saturday/Sunday, Cody, what you got for your race podium here?
I really do think that the Red Bulls are going to be pretty strong here, and I'm hoping a little bit for a return to form for Sergio Perez. So I've got Max Verstappen taking the first win in Las Vegas around the strip. I've got Sergio Perez coming in second place, and continuing his strong run of form, I've got Lando Norris coming home in third.
Yeah, I liked your podium as soon as I saw it because I think those are, the team-wise, those are kind of the strongest right now. Sergio Perez doing very good job to kind of get back to form after the Mexico debacle in Brazil. I think he will be feeling much more relaxed. He actually has a chance to clinch the P2 in the drivers, which will take a load of pressure off of him going into the final race of the season. So I think he will be motivated to try to put in a performance here. I would love to somehow come up with a scenario where Max doesn't fire the tires up and goes spinning off into turn 1, even from the pole, and 20 other cars or 19 other cars pass him. And at least then we would definitely have a show. I don't know that I see Singapore vibes here. I feel that this is much more Monza vibes, and they were really, really good in Monza. So, yeah, I think this is Red Bulls to lose. I got Max Verstappen taking the win. I got Lando Norris coming in second because I'm going to be a homer and hope that something befuddles Max. I thought it was interesting in the last race. It's the first time I've heard this through his radio, where Lando was really trying to concentrate on what is Max doing, pit in, pit out, why are we losing in the margins. So you could tell where the thought process is now turned forward, where it's not like we're just happy to be in P2 now. We're trying to figure out how to actually go challenge that guy. So whether or not he's got the car for it here, I don't know. This doesn't look like it's a McLaren easy to do track, but I think they're still second fastest overall. So I'll put Lando in P2. And I do think Sergio Perez will wrap up the P2 and the drivers. I think he only has to outscore Lewis by 7 points to make that happen. I think he comes home in the podium. I think it's a double Red Bull podium. So I got Verstappen, Norris, and Perez for my race podium. All right. So we will now move into who we think the fastest lap and the driver will be. This is really darts at a dartboard. We kind of knew something about qualifying pace. We really don't know about what the race pace is going to be. But Cody, I'll let you take the first stab at it, and then I'll come in.
Yeah, definitely a shot in the dark. I pretty much just took the expected pole lap time and took off a bunch of seconds and then put in something fun for the decimals again. So I'm going lucky 21 for blackjack this time. I got Max Verstappen taking the pole. Big surprise there. Or not the pole. Fastest lap. Got Max Verstappen taking the pole and the fastest lap. But the fastest lap I've got for a 1 minute 39.210.
All right, very good. Yeah, I think, again, this is Red Bulls to lose. I see Max, however many pit stops there's going to be, coming out and just blitzing a lap and then being told to cool the car, even though it's really cold out, and bring it home. But I do think the lap times will be somewhere probably by the end of it around a 39 something. I mean, my general rule is you take your quali time, you add 7 seconds for full load of fuel, which when they used to do full fuel runs, that's kind of what you'd see. and then take off a second or two for, the fuel burning off and how motivated somebody's going to want to be, to do a full on, blitz fast lap here. I don't know how motivated anybody's going to want to be. This may just be we got to just bring the thing home type of fast lap, but I do have it in the 39s. I got a 139.539. All right. So for our bonus picks, we tried to do Vegas-esque type numbers here. So we're going with lucky P7, unlucky P13, and in the middle, because ace can be 1 or 11 in blackjack, couldn't do P21. We're waiting on Andretti to come in and do that next year. we want that 11th team so we could do our bet here. But we'll go with in the middle, P11. So, Cody, who you got for P7, P11, P13?
I think, looking at our sheet, that our predictions are actually flip-flopped. So, because I put in...
How did you do that?
I have no idea. Sorry about that.
Did I do that?
It's okay.
Oh, well, just let's test our discipline. What do you got?
I have, for P7, Pierre Gasly. He seems to kind of float right around that decent points spot. So I'm hoping he brings it home. He's been performing very well throughout this whole year for his first year in Alpine. For P11, I got Lance Stroll just missing out on the points, which means that I definitely think Fernando Alonso will be scoring points. And I've got Daniel Ricciardo taking P13.
All right. So I have for P7, he's been on a struggle bus. It's been probably the most unreported struggle bus that I can remember in a long time. George Russell. I don't know that he gets it done here. I don't think this track necessarily feels like a Mercedes-esque type track, even being under the lights. P11, I just feel like that's Yuki Tsunoda just ends up there more times than I'd like to count, so I'm going to put him there. And P13, I do think Williams will show well here in certain spurts, and that's why I've got Logan Sargent coming back in. Not necessarily enough to get points, but a good showing on race day for him, P13. That would make it, I think, 4 decent ones in a row for him. All right. All right, so time for our prop bet, and because we're in the U.S., we like to do this Team USA, and that will be Haas or Williams, because, again, they have American owners. Do any representatives of Team USA score points this weekend? We had lots of them come through. We had double points in Coda, and we had Logan Sargent managed to get his first point in Formula One last time they were here. So what's your thought?
I am going for yes, mostly because I think Alex Albon, provided he can keep his car in one piece through turn 1 this time, had really bad luck in Brazil. I think he stands to have a pretty strong performance. So I do think he'll come out of this with a few points.
I am in agreement with you, sir. I have this as a yes. First of all, it's an oddball race, and maybe you never know. Haas may actually try something and maybe get lucky. They'd have to get really lucky. They'd have to roll like 2 sevens, and maybe they could do that. I don't know. But I do think your actual contender for real points here is Williams. This is like Monza-esque type layout, Monza-esque type speeds and all that, and the Williams in a straight line is a really good car. So, yeah, I think particularly Alex Albon will show pretty good here. I would, if I was going to predict anything, I may have him as high as P5. Because I do think he could possibly score that many if conditions and whatnot come to them, like some of the simulations have shown. But anyway, so those are our kind of predictions. We will see kind of how they pan out when we reconvene on our Vegas review. All right, so our last topic before we head on out. I was thinking about this earlier. We hadn't even talked about it. Have you seen any of the special liveries that teams are doing? Did you have a favorite of any of them?
I've at least seen the Red Bull one, and I gotta say, I actually kind of like it. I think it looks pretty cool. I like how they kind of are going back to like the purple color that they had on the cars, kind of more during like the Sebastian Vettel days, and I think it's going to look really cool in Vegas too. So I think that one at least is very nice. I've seen the Ferrari one too with the white. I kind of appreciate the vibe that they're going for. A lot of the, at least for me, the quintessential Ferrari car is the ones that Michael Schumacher drove during his years of dominance, with like the white wings and stuff like that. And it seems like they're kind of going with that vibe, so I can appreciate that too. I think those are the only two I've really seen, though.
Well, there's Williams that has the Las Vegas sign, kind of where when they did the British Grand Prix, where the British flag would be, kind of around the back of the car. And then McLaren has put out a supposedly special one. It kind of has, they took a lot of the blue off. It's more papaya and black. More of kind of like the Pato Award-esque, like IndyCar type vibe is kind of what I got from it. But it still looks like the regular McLaren as far as I'm concerned. There's no mistaking what that car is going to be. So that wasn't like, it's not up on my list of, ooh, I really enjoyed that special livery. But, in terms of, and the Williams one, I like the fact that at least they're actually putting the actual name of the town somewhere on the car, which I think is actually pretty cool. I loved how Red Bull debuted their special livery. Did you see the picture of them lowering it at the
I only saw
nightclub?
Like a screenshot, but it did look really cool.
They're lowering it upside down in a nightclub while literally there's some sort of techno rant going on in the middle of it. Maybe they were playing the Max Verstappen song, on the DJ there. But I put out a tweet about it. Like, at least they understand the bit. They're going all in. Why not? What have you got to lose there? And I love
going all in. Was that a Vegas joke?
Oh, of course. That's all I got right now are puns and puns. But anyway, last topic before we head on out of here. See, there are good things about this race. There's lots of good things about this race. I actually want to get excited for it. If you want to watch your F1 this weekend live, as many are apt to do, get your sleep in when you can this weekend. It will be a bit of a challenge. FP1 kicks off tomorrow, Thursday in the U.S. for parts of it, maybe Friday morning if you're in other parts of it, but 11:25 p.m. Eastern. That's your Thursday/Friday start. FP2 is 2:55 a.m. Eastern. FP1 you can catch on ESPN2. FP2 will be on Big ESPN. Why not? It's the middle of the night. What else are they going to show? For Friday, Saturday, FP3 will be 11:25 p.m. Eastern. So your Friday evening/Saturday morning. That is on ESPNU, which I'm glad about because that means the delay won't be as awful as when they put it on ESPN News. So that's a win. The qualifying session will be 2:55 a.m. Eastern. So 1:55 a.m. Central. I think it is, I don't even know what the rest of them are, but Mountain is 12:55, and it's almost around midnight for the qualifying session.
It's going to be actually, no matter what.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to try to watch that. But whether or not I do a live tweet of it, we'll have to see how awake I am. So stand by for that. I have an intention to do it. I can't tell if I'm actually going to do it or not. But for the Saturday/Sunday, the race itself, the race build-up starts 11:30 p.m. Eastern. That's on ESPN. And the Grand Prix itself kicks off 12:55 a.m. Eastern, 11:55 a.m. Central Time for us. 10 o'clock if you're actually there on Saturday night. That will be shown on Big ESPN. Good luck. I would say get your power naps in. Have your wake-up juice ready to go. And hopefully, sometimes I can try to do a session and try to sleep. This brings me, it's like I said, it's how I would attack Australia. It's how I would attack Japan is probably the best way that I can try to prep you for what this is going to be, because this is odd timing even for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that qualifying, man, that's like the perfect too late to stay up, too early to get up time. I just got a stovetop espresso maker, so I'm sure I'll be getting some use out of that for this.
I know I'm going to have to set an alarm because a lot of times I'll wake up at like 2:30 in the morning with all my stuff on. So I got to make sure I set the alarm to make sure. And hopefully your cat agrees.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Walks across. We'll see if he's up as well. But so we will be back after the race. I'm not sure when we're actually going to try to do the review. We might just be you and me, Cody. I know Deanna's said she was going to bring her stuff. She's visiting family, obviously, for the holiday weekend, which is also kicking off. So we'll have to see. We'll have to coordinate. She had said her and her dad were going to stay up. So maybe we can get some group chat going, try to keep each other awake throughout the whole thing. Looking forward to that. But yeah, we're here for whatever's happened. Good, bad, indifferent. We will cover it all. And we will be back to you with a review when we can. As soon as we can get it out to you, we will definitely do that. But Cody, appreciate you hopping on tonight. Any final thoughts before we let the madness, as they say, happen?
It's going to be really funny going into a weekend of the unknown where the race could be really kooky and really glamorous. And then we're going to wrap it up in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, exactly. You go from the crazy to the really kind of predictable of Abu Dhabi. But anyway, like I said, we'll be back and we will see what all happens. So enjoy your Las Vegas Grand Prix. And as always, may all your laps be fast.